Hi, how are you today? Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, okay, cool. So, thank you for being on time.
Sure.
And as people come in, we'll get started right away. So, I'm just
Wonderful.
going to mute until then.
Sounds great.
Let folks get in. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Gregory, you're early, so you're welcome to stay with us, but you're early. Or if you want to come back a little later, but you can stay with us the whole time. So just know, okay, whatever you want to do. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Christina. Good to see you.
You ran out without giving me a picture.
I know.
I
You were
almost chased you
talking to
down.
someone. You were talking to someone, and I thank you, Greg, for being early to Spaces. You were talking to someone, and I was like, oh, so that's it.
You can interrupt anyone. Just
Wow.
know you have that privilege.
Okay. Well, Candace is here too, so just got to get our members to get here, but we're going to start in a little bit. Now that all the candidates are here, we're going to get going. I want everyone to know that others will be coming in. Some are starting to come in, but this is taped and it is sent out to our membership, which is about a subscription membership of about 400 people. And also, it is placed on our YouTube channel. So people will come in as they get home, get settled. And I think it's a nice day today. So people might be choosing other options, but just want you to know who this is distributed to and who will see it. So we have a very high click rate and engagement rate with our newsletter. So with that, I want to get started because we do have three candidates tonight that we're engaging with, and it is quite a day. So here comes some more. Okay. So I'm going to spotlight our first person in a few seconds, but I'm going to give some opening remarks. So happy Women's History Month. I'm really excited to celebrate women this month. We are coming to an end of the month. I hope you've participated and thanked the special women in your life who's made a difference in the community and in this country. And so we have a very full agenda today. We have three 26 for 26. We'll hear first from Elissa Silverman, candidate for at-large council member, independent. Then we'll hear from Candace Tiana Nelson, candidate for at-large council member, Democrat. And then we will wrap up tonight's session with Gregory Jackson, candidate for at-large council member, Democrat. We'll also hear from our state board rep, Eboni-Rose Thompson, who will provide updates from the State Board of Education. We'll end with announcements that we have and that others may have, and we will adjourn by 8 p.m. So again, thank you very much for being here. I am Marla Dean, the chair of the Ward 7 Ed Council, and just want to remind everyone that the mission is to organize, collaborate, and advocate to ensure access to high-quality, community-based public education as a matter of right for Ward 7 early childhood, pre-K through 12, and adult learners. So we are deeply concerned about the entire spectrum of those being educated in the District of Columbia. Our core values are equity, access, health and safety, joy, and responsiveness. And our goals are that all Ward 7 learners deserve a high quality education, that Ward 7 schools become the preferred educational destination for Ward 7 families, and that we establish and protect a strong feeder pattern in Ward 7, so that all families will have a stable, predictable continuity of program services for their children that they know will result in a quality education. With that being said, I want to bring to the fore our first conversation with Elissa Silverman, who is candidate for at-large council member, and there you are, you're spotlighted. So how are you doing today, this evening?
I'm good, Dr. Dean. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to the conversation.
Excellent. So just start off with telling us who you are.
Great. So my name is Elissa Silverman, and I am running, as you said, unlike the other two candidates you'll be talking to, I'm an independent. I am running in the independent special election to fill the seat vacated by Kenya McDuffie when he changed parties to run for mayor. The special election will occur on the same day as the as the primary, Democratic primary, and you'll be receiving, if you're receiving your ballot by mail and voting by mail, the special election ballot will be in with your primary ballot. A little bit about me. I am a graduate of public schools. I grew up in Baltimore, grades 1 through 12, went to Baltimore City Public Schools, Western High School, one of the rare all-girls public schools in the country. I served two terms on the council. I'm known for paid family leave, but I think one of the other big things I did, and I was happy to see adult learners on your introductory page, was I funded a very innovative adult learning program called Integrated Education and Training. It's used in 10 of the adult charter schools. And this is a innovative approach to adult education to get our low-level language learners into good paying jobs. What I'll say is that when I served my 2 terms on the council, I was labor chair for 6 years. So I was focused sort of on the bookends, I would say, on early childhood, making sure that parents have a safe place, early childhood in early childcare centers so they could go to work. And then, of course, our adult learners so they could get into good jobs. Returning to the council, I want to focus on pre-K through 12, and especially on our truancy rate. I was just talking actually to labor folks, and we can't get people into good jobs, good apprenticeship programs if they can't read, if they can't do math, if they don't have critical thinking skills. And that means that we need our kids in school. So this is going to be a big focus for me. I'm here to ask for your vote, and I look forward to the conversation again.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that opening. Yes, I think Baltimore and Philadelphia are 2 of the cities that still have an all-girls high school that's public, right? So
that's right. Girls High in Philly and West.
Yeah, Girls High, exactly. Not very common anymore. I happened to went to an all-girls high school too, but it wasn't public in Detroit.
Right.
So why are you running for at-large council member independent? Tell us that first.
Sure. Well, I think there are 2 questions in there. So why are you an independent? I would consider myself more of a Bernie Sanders independent, maybe not as left as Bernie, but I just think that the local Democratic Party, and unfortunately, increasingly, the National Democratic Party just doesn't embrace the values of investing in people instead of in corporations that I believe in. In terms of why I'm running again, why do I want to come back? I think for 3 big reasons. First, I think we need to have a much more muscular and strategic approach to the Trump administration. I think we need to have, I would say, go on offense where we can. And I do think that Mayor Mamdani in New York shows how that can be done. And then obviously we're in a different position than he is because we're not a state. So we need to play strategic defense. Where does this come into play with education? If you looked at Project 2025, vouchers played a really big role in that. And I think that's where we need to place, strategic defense in terms of education. Just to emphasize again, I'm a believer and a product of traditional neighborhood-based public schools, and I believe in them. I'd say the second reason is we need to spend our money much, much, much better. We have a $22 billion budget. And, in terms of Ward 7 schools, which I know everyone here is focused on, we have a major equity issue. It is very different to go to Burville or Ann Beers in Ward 7 and go to Lafayette in Ward 4. And it shouldn't be that way. It just shouldn't be that way. I have major concerns about the per pupil funding formula and whether that is the right way to go in terms of achieving equity in our schools. I'm not sure there's a better model, but I think the current one we have just isn't providing the resources to a lot of the schools in your ward that it needs. I guess the third reason is that, I miss doing the work. I spent a year in the Maryland Department of Labor. It just wasn't where I should be. And I knew that every day I went to work there. So when the opening came for this seat, I think, I haven't changed parties. I've been an independent since 2013. It's who I am. I'm an independent voice, and that's what I'll deliver, I think, if you return me to the council.
So before we go some more on some education questions, my question is, since you're coming back to the council, what have you learned in the interim from your first time to now? What have you reflected on and learned? And how will you incorporate that into the way that you will serve in this role in the future?
It's a great question. I've learned a lot. In the end, like, let's use my signature achievement, which is paid family leave. I would have done that a lot differently if I did it now. And the way I would do it differently is, I think everyone in the city, it became a very contentious issue, but with actually universities, the consortium of universities opposed paid family leave. Georgetown University, a Jesuit university that embraces family values, was dead set against it. Shouldn't have been that way. And the way I'd approach it differently, to answer your question, Dr. Dean, is Georgetown, I think many of the universities believed in paid family leave. And I should have started where the common ground was instead of where the differences were. I think the two things I've really learned, and maybe it's just getting old, but is that you get things done through relationships, and you get things done by finding the common ground. Okay. And I would say those would be my North Stars returning to the council.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So tell me, what distinguishes you from the field of those who are running for the independent at-large council seat?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of nice people who are running. What distinguishes me is, number one, a track record of results, getting things done. A lot of times when you guys go to vote, it's like, well, I hope that person can do something. I think when you vote for me, you know I can get things done. And what I would say is, I think the 2.0 version, as we just talked about, is going to be a lot more skilled than the 1.0 version. Because the other thing is, going back to your prior question, like, I really want to be here. I think there's a very skilled and knowledgeable group of people here. I had a very brutal 2022 election. And a lot of people wouldn't come back after what happened. But I really want to do this work. I'm committed to the city. But I also bring fresh eyes. I would say what I bring is a combination of a track record of experience, results, of delivering results for district residents. But I also bring fresh eyes of not having been in the Wilson building bubble for a few years, and also working in another government. So I think I bring a lot of, new perspective, and I'm just not going to do the same thing over and over again.
Well, thank you. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. What experience do you have with education and education policy?
Well, I'm not an educator, but I was just endorsed by the Washington Teachers Union. And the reason why Laura Fuchs, the president, wrote is that I am results-driven and I'm data-driven, but I'm also people-driven. I think the reason why I've been able to get a lot of things done is I have a North Star. And I think when it comes to education, for me, as I said at the beginning, we need, my focus is we need our kids in school, not only for the intellectual benefits of going to school, but for the nutritional benefits of being in school, for the social emotional benefits, just developing as good human beings and having a safe place to be all day, to be honest with you, with trusted adults who care about them. So I'm not going to profess to be an educator. I'm not. I am, I'm trained in economics. But what I believe in is investing in people, and especially investing to compensate for, maybe not having a parent who has a higher education and has, a lot of books in the home. Like, we need school to help fill those gaps. And as you mentioned, I went to public schools. I have one parent who didn't graduate from college. I have one parent who went to law school. But I have a lot of classmates from my time at Western who were not only first generation college students, but first generation high school graduates. So I know what the difference that a great education can make in the lives of people, because those are my friends who I went to elementary, middle school, and high school with. I don't think we're doing what we should be doing in DCPS. And then I think I saw a question about charters. We got to figure out what we're doing in terms of delivering an educational system. Because right now we have sort of a system on the public, traditional public side, and sort of a little bit of chaos in the charters. I think I was actually just looking before we got on, like, how many charters there are in Ward 7. There's so many charter schools, and it's difficult, I think, for parents to understand like what the options are. In my opinion, there's a reason why there aren't charter schools in Ward 3, because the option is a good neighborhood school.
Thank you with that. So let's talk about what would be the major tenets of your education platform.
Well, I think the major tenets is, so I believe in deferring to subject matter experts, but making sure those subject matter experts have the resources they need. My job as a council member is to be an appropriator in this case of making sure that our budget meets our goals. And our goals, we say as a city, is for every child, no matter where they live, to have the same education. But that's not true right now. So there are certain goals that I have. As I said, first of all, I think we need to work with the chancellor, the subject matter experts in our classrooms to get our kids in school. We cannot have 1 out of 3 of our students, and I think I'm underestimating that, chronically absent. We need to take this issue on, because we can't do anything if our kids aren't in school and in the classroom. So that's goal number 1 for me. I think goal number 2, as I said, I'm not an educator. I don't profess to be one. So what my job, I think, is to talk to the educators and say, what do you need to make your classroom successful? And I think that's different, as we said, again, in a lot of our Ward 7 schools than, frankly, it is in our Ward 3 schools. We need additional supports so that our students can deal with the things that are going on in their life. That we need, and then there's just basics, in my opinion. Of course, we need trusted adults and caring educators, but we need a nurse in every school. I'm sorry, especially in areas where maybe, and I know this from my own health insurance issues, where people don't have health insurance. We need them to be able to access the school nurse. And some of our kids are on medication. They need a nurse. And we need, some folks might know me from when we battled the old chancellor about school nutrition. I'm sorry. The old chancellor was saying, Chancellor Henderson was saying that it wasn't like a primary role of school. I completely disagree. I know from my own personal experience, not my experience in my own household, but my classmates, that the main meal they ate was breakfast and lunch at school. Because we have a lot of parents who worked at night, and they weren't making dinner for the family. They couldn't. So in my opinion, we need to have a nutritious breakfast, lunch, and snack at schools, especially at the elementary level. And then I am a true believer in social emotional supports. We need to have a social worker in every school And we need to have probably more than one, in my opinion, especially at the lower grades. Let's address the issues around trauma. Look, if your family, if your mom or dad is struggling economically, that's difficult to deal with. And I always tell this story. I had a classmate in 10th and 11th grade, Marie Brown. She sat next to me. She couch surfed, and she never made it to English period, which was our first period, on time. But Mrs. Sims, our teacher, knew that. So she didn't punish Marie. She dealt with Marie, and worked with her, because honestly, Marie was like the smartest person in our English class. And, now Marie works for Johns Hopkins University. So, but Mrs. Sims can't do that. She was like superhuman, and we all like still talk about her, but teachers can't do it alone, and they need additional supports too. I probably went on and on, but my job is to make sure, that whatever school we're talking about has, whether it's H.D. Woodson or Ann Beers, has the resources they need to make sure that they have a good shot at making every kid in that school successful in that grade.
So I have one more question, and then I think there's a couple of questions in the chat that I want to get to. So, education, of course, is extremely important, but the support of children and families are equally as important. So what policies would you, or what aspects of your platform support children and families?
I mean, every aspect of it. Again, the major job, in my opinion, of the council is to appropriate your taxpayer dollars to achieve the goals that we want to, which is, in the end, I think, to make sure that we have kids who are developing into successful adults. And I'm a believer, as I said, I have a big labor background. Success can mean different things. We need plumbers. We need kids going into apprenticeship programs. We also need kids going to college. We need kids who get certificates and become IT professionals. But they all need to read, and they all need to have critical thinking skills, and they all need to be able to regulate their emotions, so that they can deal with life. And I think that's what my job is, to put those resources in place so that we achieve those goals.
Okay, so there's 3 questions in the chat, and we have 4 minutes left. So I want to just let you know.
Okay.
So let's go there right away. So you talked about adult charter schools, but one of our attendees wanted to talk about those who are actually too low to even attend adult charter schools and would need to attend or receive something like the services of Washington Literacy Center. How do you think that's important? How do we support those residents in our city?
Well, that might be a question from Jimmy, I imagine.
I was trying not to call him out, but you just did. Go ahead. Okay.
That's okay. I mean, you go to these, you've been around a long time, you know everybody. I think, good question, Jimmy. I mean, what we need to do is, I believe, Washington Literacy Center receives grants from our government. And, what we need to do, again, is put those resources in place so that we can move those lowest level learners at Washington Literacy Center to get to the Academies of Hope and the Carlos Rosarios and the other programs that can then move them from a higher reading level, then of course into the workplace.
Thank you. So we don't have shortage of young people in Ward 7, but our schools are often chronically under-enrolled, low enrollment schools that are really important, like Brown. You also went to a all-girls school. This is an all boys or
Boys school, yeah.
Yep. And then Philip Sousa, which is a iconic school because it was actually a part of the process of Brown versus Board of Education. So how would you attempt to address some of those issues around enrollment in Ward 7 schools?
So again, I think we have to put the resources in place to make those schools considered a good option. Right now, parents and kids are walking with their feet, right? They're walking to a charter school. They're trying to get to Deal or Wilson, Jackson
Jackson
Reed.
Reed. Mm-hmm.
I'm still old
That's
school,
all right. It
but
happens all the time.
we need parents to stop walking with their feet. And I think it's doing things like we, did at Beers, which is to put language immersion over there, to put the things that parents want. And I also think, maybe to get get parents to come towards 7 schools, maybe making the classrooms smaller. I think we also need to incentivize. It's both getting parents to choose, because we still do have a sort of a choice-based system, but also getting educators to choose to teach at Ward 7 schools. So perhaps it's giving extra planning time. Perhaps it's making the classrooms smaller so that you get more personal attention. And as I said, again, perhaps it's putting more of those additional resources like social workers and I think especially the social emotional supports in those schools, so that, a parent can say, hey, I know that there are going to be a bunch of trusted adults who are at this school, my neighborhood school. And you got to make that the best option for them instead of schlepping across town to another place.
And so the final question, and we're really at time at this point, is around CTE, from a whole litany of things, from starting maybe CTE programs in middle school, especially in Ward 7 or Eastern River schools, to language acquisition or immersion or dual language being added to CTE programming. What are your thoughts around the role of CTE and what it should be and include and do?
Well, I'm a big fan of CTE. I'll be brief, but let's do best practices. That is something that I haven't mentioned, which is we waste a lot of money spending money on programs that don't work. There are programs that work. I think the NAF program, which is the CTE program that has partners. I know in hotel management, for example, Thomas Penny, who's president of Donahoe, one of the biggest hotel managers in the city, he works very closely with the NAF program in hotel management at some of our, I think they're at Jackson Reed, but let's do CTE, but let's do it right for results that are going to end up getting our kids in, on career paths that are going to work for them.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Do you have any final remarks in 30 seconds or less that you want to leave us with?
Well, let me address language immersion. We need to
Okay.
do much more of it east of the river. Because what the charter schools show is parents want language immersion, and that's modern life. I regret not being able to speak Spanish. I'll just be honest. Mm-hmm. So we need to do much more of it, because that's the modern world. Thank you very much. I know you guys are frustrated because you keep having the same conversations over and over again. And what I will say in 2.0 version is I vow that you won't have those conversations over and over again with me, that we will set goals and we'll get them done. I ask for your vote in the special election, and I'm happy to have any of you. My phone number is 202-386-2173, elissa.silverman@gmail.com. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for coming to the Ward 7 Education Council. Have a good day.
Have a good night.
Yep. Okay, everyone. So we just heard from our first 26 for 26 guest, and we want to move quickly to our next. We're 26 for 26, which is Candance Tiana Nelson. Let me spotlight you rather, and then stop the share so people can see you. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, Miss Candance, tell us who you are. Tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself to Ward 7.
Yes. Good evening, Ward 7 Education Council. Thank you, Dr. Dean, my soror. Happy Sisterhood Month. Happy
It
Women's
is.
History Month. Thank you to the leadership of the Ward 7 Education Council. I am so happy for this opportunity. My name is Candance Tiana Nelson, and I believe leadership makes people feel seen, heard, and valued, and too many of us in DC don't feel that way today. For those who have not heard me speak, let me address it now. You will hear a little twang come out from time to time because I did grow up in the country, but I have lived in DC for 20 years. And so the twang is loyal, and so am I, because for 2 decades I've been advocating for DC residents, serving as an ANC commissioner, working in all 3 branches of government, 5 DC agencies. I think they are the ones that matter: Department of Small and Local Business Development, Healthcare Finance, Human Services, Employment Services, and in the mayor's office under Mayor Gray, serving as a policy analyst for women's issues. I'd led the Attorney General transition for Brian Schwab, and I worked as the chief of staff for the council member in Ward 4, Janice Lewis-George. I believe that a thriving district is one that focuses on strong foundations, and that's education, healthcare, and housing, and ensuring that they are affordable, accessible, and of high quality, because quality is key. Because when education is strong and healthcare is preventative and housing is stable, all communities win. And I often say, I'm not old school, I'm not new school, I'm middle school. I'm middle age, middle class, and I believe in bringing people to the middle because it's common sense that we come to common ground. So unity is the heart of my campaign. You can call me the Kumbaya candidate if you will. I know that unity is not uniformity, but I do believe that it makes common sense to come to common ground. I feel I'm prepared, I'm principled, and I'm ready to deliver so that we can have a government that works. So I often say, Candace can, DC can, yes, we can. And I'm happy to be here tonight.
Well, thank you. Well, that was quite an introduction. So tell us,
Thank you. Thank you.
why why are you running for at-large councilwoman Democrat?
Well, I'm running because there's several reasons, and I stated one in the beginning. I do believe that people need to feel seen, heard, and valued, and that's what leaders do. So that means when leaders listen, you can tell that you're being represented because they sound like you. I've spent a career in DC government, so I want to see it work, and I want it to work for everyone. I understand managing systems, overseeing budgets, holding agencies accountable. I want to see that happen and want to implement that. I'm running to bring the coordination and accountability and the results to our government, and to make our schools strong and our housing stable, and to have real support for our families. When I was at the council, because I quit the council to run for council, but when I was serving as the chief of staff for Councilmember Lewis-George, I noticed in 2025, when all of the executive orders started coming out from our administration, it seemed that, the mayor was over here trying to figure out what to do. Everything was siloed. The council wasn't talking to the council. And then Brian, our AG, was over here like, who can I sue? What can I do? And I got really, really frustrated in that because I wanted to see our government work together better so that we could fight the federal overtake, and so that we could just be unified. Each branch has its own place. And I think if we are in our own lane and we're passing the baton to each other when we need, we're serving our residents better. And so that's why I jumped into this race.
Okay, well, tell us what distinguishes you from the rest of the field.
I bring both policy experience and operations experience, and I think that's rare. Some candidates will talk about policy, but I've implemented it. I've managed an $110 million contract for what's now called District Direct. I call that the Health and Human Services Travelocity, if you will. So instead of being like, I want a car, I want a flight, I want a hotel, it's like, I want TANF, I want SNAP, I want Medicaid. And we put the power in people's hands through a mobile app, and also on your laptops or your computers. I've built performance plans and metrics and dashboards at 3 different agencies, held agencies accountable for those results. And seeing the sides of all branches, from executive to legislative to judiciary, I believe I bring a different, perspective. and can really help in terms of the execution that I would like to see, and ensuring that we have equity there too. I studied conflict resolution, so I know that I'm humble enough to know that I'm not always right, but I'm curious enough to want to hear from all sides. I want to bring back task force and advisory groups, so that the council is hearing from the people. I believe that we should govern with the people, not just over the people. And so I believe in building coalitions and getting things done, and that working with the community, and that's how we get it done.
Okay. And so what experience do you have with education or education policy?
Yes, yes, yes. Boots on the ground, education, hands-on work, community driven, focused on outcomes. As an ANC commissioner, I worked directly with Brightwood Elementary School. We had some interesting incidents there when I was serving as the commissioner for single member district 4A06. We had Military Road School that was sold to Lamb for 1.3 million, and then sold back to DCPS for 8.3 million. They wanted to use it for Lafayette pre-K 4 as a rollover, but weren't really including the Brightwood community in the conversation. It didn't seem as if the Brightwood kids were going to be able to utilize the building, and so we fought for that. And we had a citywide pre-K open there, and I'm proud of that. Working with the bordering ANCs and 4E and also in 3-4G, we pulled together to ensure that this would be a pre-K, but a pre-K for everyone in a place where the students would be able to, no matter where they lived, either east or west of, Rock Creek Park, that they would be able to utilize the building. And we got quick wins for Brightwood out of that too. We had a covering, an awning that needed to be there so that students, when they were coming from the trailers into the schools, that they would be able to have a covering instead of using their umbrellas and things. And we fixed the louvers on the trailer so that the raccoons weren't having community meetings underneath. And we really made sure that we pushed to get those quick wins at the same time as we were pushing to have this citywide pre-K. I've went with students that were graduating from Brightwood and going on to Ida B. Wells as they wanted to look for their new passages, their new pathways, their commutes to school. We discovered needles at the bus stops. And so I so much miss the deputy mayor for operations and infrastructure, Demois, because that office was able to kind of figure out when the agencies were doing volleyball back and forth in terms of who should clean bus stops, DPW, DDOT, DSLBDs, main streets or great streets, that deputy mayor's office could come together and help with the coordination that I was talking about earlier, to figure out how to make our kids safe on their ways to school. So I've been an advocate. I will continue to be an advocate for, safe schools and safe environments, the community voice and decision making, and equitable investments across all wards when it comes to education.
Okay, well, thank you. So what are the major tenets of your education platform?
Yes. I would say you could wrap it up with equity, stability, accountability, equity, funding. The funding should follow the students and their need, no matter the school type, no matter the school, governance, just to reflect like the real challenges that the students are facing. Comprehensive school supports. So talking about counselors and nurses and, arts and mental health supports, just making sure that it's not based on enrollment, but based on the need of the school. I'd love to bring homeless services coordinators back to the schools, but making sure that there's mental health supports, not only for the students, but for the teachers as well. Trauma-informed training for the teachers and for our mental health professionals that we need in our schools. Higher pay, I want to make sure that we have strong support for our educators. So, teacher retention is important. We live in a space and a place where we're so close for someone to dart off to a different jurisdiction. And I know that we're losing teachers that are going to Maryland and Virginia. And so making sure that there's higher pay, smaller classrooms when we can do that, better working conditions just overall to retain our teachers, safe and accessible schools, investments in transportation so that we have the safe passage like I was speaking of before, and just modernization of our school facilities, especially in, 7 and 8. But fighting for that because it's hard to learn if the HVAC is broken and if your boiler system's not working, like I've seen in, multiple schools. And so just fighting for that and ensuring that we have some accountability and transparency. And when we see that, we fund that way as well. So we need to fund it, we need to track it, and ensure that we are delivering results.
Okay, thank you. So I have one more question, and I see
Okay.
questions are coming in the chat, so we'll get to
Okay.
those too.
I haven't looked
But
at the chat, so you'll have
okay,
to tell me
don't get
what's
distracted by the chat. It's
okay.
okay. I'll deal with that. But
Okay.
what other so education is really important.
Yes.
However, children live in families. So what aspects of your platform supports children and their families?
Well, I believe my entire platform is built on, the stability of families. So therefore, our children as well. As I stated before, my three main points are ensuring that we have a strong foundation and focus our policies there. And that strong foundation is education, healthcare, and housing, and ensuring that, the education is strong, the healthcare is preventative, and the housing is stable. So with housing, we're talking about because, students can't learn when it's not stable, when they're moving from place to place, or if they are in the continuum of care for homelessness. And that's why I mentioned those homeless services coordinators and bringing those back to school. Healthcare, we know that folks need to have their physical strength, and schools are important not only because they're feeding the mind, but sometimes they feed the body. And we know that students are eating at school. And so that's why it's important when schools are open so that we know that the kids are getting, the meals that they need. So just that is a part of the healthcare as well. Economic opportunity is a part of my platform, and ensuring that we have, the households, and we're creating stable places for stable, students, and, the housing production. And then public safety as well, because I do feel that when all of these other three places are connected, when it comes to our healthcare, our housing, and our education, that things like public safety do improve. But I want to see strength there when it comes to crisis response, and ensuring that we have that there's more coordination between MPD and the Department of Behavioral Health. So I think a lot of different things on my platform are there, and they're there to hold up our communities, hold up our families. I encourage people to visit my website to see that, www.candace, CANDACEFOR, Candace for DC.com, and to get involved.
Thank you. So we have a few questions, I believe, in the chat.
Okay.
So let me go there. Okay. So how will you bring the same equitable resources from places like Ward 4 to Ward 7? I know Ward 4 is your beloved Ward 4, but especially in education, Calvin Coolidge, for example, has become one of the quickest increasing in enrollment schools in DCPS, which wasn't always the case. And so how will you increase enrollment in Ward 7 schools such as HD Woodson?
Thank you. Thank you. I believe a lot of that just comes from the pure focus on what the legislative branch is responsible for, which is, oversight of, the performance of agencies, including DCPS and the charter schools, and it also comes to oversight of the budget. And oversight of performance comes first. And so I believe in looking at the programs that we do have now, which is extremely important because we know we have the push from the federal government that has cuts coming in. We have local government cuts that are coming in. So I start with performance first. and looking at that and then determining how to provide those supports through the budget. So, ensuring that the budget is there for whatever the needs are there for the school. But I start with performance first across the board for all 8 wards, for all schools there, to ensure that we are balancing out the equity. I'm sure some of you have heard of the REACH Act, which created the Office of Racial Equity on both the executive and legislative branches. I believe that it's working much better on the executive side than the legislative side. So I would increase that as well to ensure that they are working with council offices and determining where we have those RIAs, as we call it, the racial equity assessments that come out that are supposed to attach to the legislation, just like a fiscal impact statement is supposed to do the same thing. So beefing up and strengthening up that office as well to ensure that we are applying racial equity across all legislation that's introduced.
Okay, thank you. So Ward 7 has the highest illiteracy rate in the city. What would you do to address this problem, and how would you support nonprofits that work in this demographic?
I speak to literacy specifically in my platform. I believe in lifelong learning. My grandmother is 97. She still reads a book a month. I did the same as I was, younger. Recently, haven't been reading as much. But I believe strongly in that. And so I focus on, the under 3 to 3rd grade, because I believe if you're not reading by 3rd grade, you are left behind. I've talked to many of folks on the campaign trail and some grandparents that are actually raising their grandchildren and having difficulty helping them with their homework, even, expressing that they cannot read. And so adult literacy is something that I want to focus on as well, and ensuring that we've seen in some places that, phonics works best, pulling in our libraries to assist in this, ensure that there are programs to support adult literacy. And so that is something I'm very kind of, radar focused on, researching and seeing how we can lift literacy all together. But I am focused on ensuring that we're working with the under 3 to 3rd grade, and then focusing on our adults who have, skipped through skip through school, from grade to grade, and unfortunately passed and are still struggling with reading.
Okay.
Is there a second part of your question there?
No,
Did I
that
miss
was
that? Okay.
no, yeah, there is. How would you work with nonprofits specifically who support this demographic? Yes.
Yes. Well, nonprofits need funding support too. But I think their leaders and their leadership needs to be brought to the table. Earlier I told you about, or I think I mentioned about wanting to have advisory councils and ensuring that they're brought to the table. And talked about wanting to work with subject matter experts and communities. That's where the nonprofits come in. They need funding. They're often a part of our ecosystem, our continuing of care. They're the extended arm or the appendage of the government often for the work that needs to be done. And they're a part of the village in helping people grow. So Washington Literacy Council and these other organizations, ensuring that they are supported because they're doing the good work and they're stretching the work of the government when the government needs to help and be a village to maybe some of our young adults or even our adults who don't have the supports from the family. That's where the government comes in, and that's where our nonprofits come in with our partnerships there as well.
So there's questions around CTE and your thoughts around CTE and dual language or language immersion. What do you think about those types of programming? Are they necessary? Would you support it? Would you support that there's equitable access east of the rivers like there are in other parts of the city?
Yes. I think, I think that's the bottom line up front answer. Yes, they're important. Yes, I would support them. I know we have the Language Access Act. There are parts of it that just, need assistance. It needs better enforcement. But with these programs as well, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yes is the answer.
Okay. Well, I think I don't see other questions. So tell us what you would like us to know as we end our time with you this evening, and why you're the person for the role.
Yes. Again, I believe that leadership makes people feel seen, heard, and valued. That's what I will do. I will represent you because I know how it feels not to be that way. I grew up in a space and a place where I felt left behind, unheard, left out. And so it has brought the core in me of this advocacy that you see now and that we've talked about tonight for somebody who wants to truly represent. So I will be a leader that listens, and you will know that because I will sound like you when I'm representing you. And I believe that. Again, our foundation is education, healthcare, and housing. I will fight to get our policies together and straight on that. My heart beats for equity and execution. And so I want to see that government work. And I am principled and prepared and ready. I mean, we didn't talk much about how this race is set up with ranked choice. I do hope to be everyone's top choice. But we have choices. And I do believe that as much as we're talking about getting in these spaces and places, and I'm so grateful to be here tonight to have the opportunity for people to meet me. But it is going to be the responsibility too of the voters to start, researching and start thinking about ranking us in the order in which you like. So sometimes I say, think of it like ice cream, chocolate, strawberry, vanilla, or whatever, what's your favorite flavor, but begin to think in your mind of ranking us in the order that you like. And so that said, again, I hope to have everyone's vote, their support. I hope people will visit the website. I can put that information in the chat if it's not
Please.
there already. And
Well,
just wanting to stay connected. Invite Candace to your couch, your corner, invite Candace out. I'm trying to meet as many people as possible.
I appreciate that, that you are inviting people to invite you to
Yes,
all the
I invite
places.
you to invite me.
Yes. And so, to that point about ranked choice voting, we are
Yes,
going to have time dedicated to that conversation before the election so that
excellent.
people can know about it, hear about it, ask questions about it. So thank you. Thank you for coming to the Ward 7 Education Council, and I will see you out and about then. Okay.
All righty.
Oh,
Until next time.
okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So, with that, we're going to continue our conversation. I'm going to remove your spotlight. Hold on. And I am going to add a spotlight for our last conversation of the evening, but not least. Um, so we have Mr. Gregory Jackson, candidate for at-large Democrat. And I'm going to spotlight you and hold on. And as we do that, I want you to tell us about who you are, Mr. Jackson, and just give us an understanding of who you are.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Excited to meet you all. And Dr. Dean, it's a pleasure to meet you as well. I'm Greg
We've
Jackson.
actually talked. I'm going to tell you when.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
So it was at Howard University, and
Oh,
it
wow.
was at a gun violence conversation.
Yep.
And I'm from Detroit. And remember, you hated on my city. Remember that? But
Might
we
hate the
good.
football
But we
team.
all good. We all
I
good.
probably hated on your football team because I think that was the year y'all beat the Commanders real bad.
But it's okay. It's all good. It's all love.
Yeah. All
But
right. That's
anyway,
personal.
please continue your thoughts. Okay. Okay. Go
I'm a
ahead.
hardcore Commanders fan, so I
Okay.
will defend my team at no matter who it is, Dr. Dean or
It's
Howard
good.
Dean.
It's good. It's good.
But
It's all love. Go ahead.
um, well, yeah, pleasure to meet everybody. So I'm Greg Jackson. I'm running for DC Council at large. Frankly, I'm running because DC deserves a safer, more affordable city where all can thrive. And as someone who lives in Ward 8 and also a survivor of gun violence and someone who's lost even some of my teenage mentees to gun violence, I've seen how, frankly, depending on what your zip code is or what street you're on, greatly decides what type of opportunities and access you have. And then that has to change. For me, this is a very personal issue for me as someone who survived gun violence in the district. I've also seen how we have not leaned in and attacked public safety in an effective way. And that's what led me to public service in 2013. I first started as the director of the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services under Mayor Bowser, the MOCRS director, the first one. Served there. I also served in the Department of Parks and Rec, the Office of Neighborhood Safety, and then the Deputy Mayor's Office for Greater Economic Opportunity. In 2019, unfortunately, I lost a family friend to gun violence in Greensboro, North Carolina, and decided to pivot from DC focused solutions to nationwide solutions. And so spent a couple years advocating for policy on Capitol Hill. Was effective and passed the first law on gun violence in 30 years, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which I'm very, very proud of in 2022. And then was appointed by President Biden to serve as his advisor on all things gun violence and public safety in 2023. And so spent 2 years in the White House in the West Wing, literally developing resources and strategies to address youth violence and gun violence, leading us to a 49% reduction in homicides. And so extremely proud of that record. And I think, when Trump came in and cleared everybody else out, I had to make a decision. Do I go off and lobby or consult, or do I dig in and bring some of the great ideas and solutions back home? And so that's why I'm running for council to make sure that some of the groundbreaking transformational policies that we fought for are being implemented here and adopted here in the district, knowing that we have some really severe challenges. Beyond gun violence and public safety, my focus is really on housing and addressing our housing crisis. DC has become the most gentrified city in the country. And we know that's because we focused so much on rental units as opposed for places for folks to live. And DC shouldn't be a place where you rent or leave. And so my housing strategy really focuses on home ownership and how do we create more pathways for people to buy and own a part of the city, not just rent until they get priced out. And then lastly, education is a huge, huge priority. Not lastly, but my third priority in my background, recognizing that we fell in behind in a huge way. And I think we all know about the literacy rates. But right now, 33% of our eighth graders citywide can read proficiently. Only 12% of our Black youth can read proficiently in the eighth grade. And so we are falling really far behind on performance, on getting our youth ready for the real world. And we're doing that in a time where there's a new technological gap that's growing with AI and all of these different innovations. And so fighting to make sure that we have the best resources, the highest performance, but also the most readiness for our young folks to go out into the real world and thrive. And lastly, I try not to talk too much because they call me Action Jackson, and my whole mantra for this campaign is less talk, more action. And really excited to run as your fighter east of the river via the seat at large for education and other resources.
So you told us why you're running, and that's the first question. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. If not, then we'll move to what distinguishes you from the rest of the field that's running for this particular position.
Yeah. Well, I think the only thing to add about me is I live in Ward 8. I'm in Congress Heights, right off of Stanton Road and Bruce Place. Literally, while you were interviewing Councilwoman Silverman, there was a federal police raid that happened outside my house. So if you look at my Twitter, you can see pictures of that. So I know, unfortunately, I think all of us east of the river are seeing the worst of what's happening. But I'm also a small business owner, a homeowner, a proud homeowner, Commanders fan, third generation Commanders fan, but was born in Richmond, Virginia, and been here my entire adult life. As far as I think what makes me different, I have one, I think the lived experiences that really put me in the best position to relate to the issues that we're fighting for. I grew up in public schools, advanced from there to go to University of Virginia and now Yale University. My mom was a substitute teacher and a bus driver, and so when it comes to education, it was all we knew. You know, my mom didn't even have a graduation party at high school. She said, "This is what you're supposed to do, right? That's the box you're supposed to check." And so I have lived experiences, whether it comes from public safety, home ownership, housing, and education, combined with true political experience, being the only one running for the seat that's actually passed a law through Congress, that served in the White House and in the mayor's office, and someone that can get it done from Pennsylvania Avenue to the Wilson Building.
So, this is not one of our planned questions, but I feel as if you said an incident, just, federal presence right outside your door. We've heard about the federal presence as it's impacted our immigrant families, but we really have not heard as much about the federal presence as it's impacted east of the river community and families. We'd like you to kind of speak to that if you can. Around that issue and how it's impacting our young people and our communities.
Yeah, look, I think when it first thinking about public safety, everybody deserves to be safe. Whether you live in Ward 1 or Ward 8, the foundation of a great, healthy community is, can we walk out our house at night or in the morning and be safe? And what's happened right now is we have watched this federal overreach that is not pushing a safety strategy, it's pushing a power strategy or control strategy. And when you think about public safety and gun violence, we cannot arrest our way out of it. And we have seen that time and time again, that you cannot incarcerate your way through a public health crisis. And what we're seeing with gun violence and even violent interactions, it's not driven by crime like it was in the 90s. Now it's driven by personal interactions. And really, we're in an environment where too many of our folks have access to a gun. And so the way that we reduced homicides by 49% from the White House perspective was investing in community-based strategies, like East River Family Strengthening Collaborative, right? Like investing in organizations that are already working in communities to make them healthier and safer, while focusing enforcement on the source of illegal guns and the source of crime. And so this connects because what's happening right now is really harmful and ineffective, because we shouldn't have ATF agents raiding into low-income homes in Marshall Heights. We should have ATF agents inspecting gun stores and cutting off gun traffickers and shutting down manufacturers that are sending these weapons into our community. And that's what they're designed to do. And so what's happening east of the river, and I've seen this multiple times outside my house, and even when I lived in Anacostia, it happened to my neighbor, my mentee, who is on my campaign board. His home has been raided. Is that we're sending these officers in to do what MPD could and should do, instead of looking at how to address the real upstream problems that are leading to guns getting into the hands of our communities. And so it's really, really sad. It's scary. Just now, there was 16 officers who ran down and almost ran over this young man on a moped, right? Laughing and giggling while they arrested him. And that is a no, and I didn't even see him find anything, right? I don't think that is the way we address violence or violent crime. I think we just need to figure out, how do we prevent violent interactions and criminal activity from happening in the first place, and let the federal government do what they're supposed to do best: protect cities from challenges that we can't address within our jurisdiction. And that's just frankly not happening in DC.
So thank you. So with that, what experience do you have with education or education policy?
Yes. Well, personal experience. I'm never a teacher or any of that. I'm a grad student at best. But I have mentored in Stanton Elementary School. I did that for 4 years, where I helped with reading activities. We helped with some of the young men as far as getting them ready for life skills, everything from photography to conflict resolution. We had a group of 26 men called the Young Kings, and we mentored them throughout really their entire experience from elementary school to adulthood. And of those 26 boys, 5 of them have been shot and killed, sadly. And so we were working with those who were most at risk and most vulnerable. And so a lot of what I learned was being up close and personal with those families here in Ward 8. I will say, as far as policy goes, the major bill that I moved forward provided many resources for education. It funded $2 billion in resources to go directly to schools, to fund mental health professionals, and to fund what's called Stronger Connections. Stronger Connections was a $1 billion grant that was split out between states, including DC, and was given to public school systems to fund programs to prevent violence within schools. And I'll never forget the day when I talked with DCPS leadership and said, how are you all using the funds from the White House? And found out they were not using it for youth programming to address violence. They put it into their overhead and they put it into mental health resources for teachers. And so while I have pushed really hard and been able to produce and provide resources and policy changes from the White House and the federal level, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of that break down between between the White House and the Wilson building, and I want to change that.
Okay, thank you. So what are the major tenets of your education platform?
Awesome. So this y'all hearing it first, hot off the press, and that's what Ward 7 deserves. So really excited. We have really 10 major things that we want to accomplish in council. First is strengthening community schools and ensure that we have resources for our youth from cradle to career, including their families, knowing that what we're seeing in Ward 7 and 8 is more than just the one student's experience. It's the entire family, and it's going to take a village to make sure that we're successful. And community schools do a great job at that. Secondly, we need to declare chronic absenteeism an emergency. We know that's one of the biggest barriers to student performance is can we even get them in the classroom? And so we have to do more to make sure that we're investing in early ways to prevent them, better ways to engage our parents, and also better efforts to hold folks accountable that are intentionally skipping out. Third is enhancing our teacher benefits. Right now, we have a good entry-level salary for teachers, but we're not doing what other cities are doing. We don't have child care benefits, and our housing assistance is just what we can offer to all government employees. And so I think we should work on providing more benefits to keep teachers in the district and thinking about not just the money that they get, but the experience they can have, recognizing the heavy affordability challenge we have. Fourth is we need to expand and improve school transportation. Getting our kids to and fro is a really, really big challenge, especially east of the river. And I hear it from almost every neighbor is the first thing in the morning is the battle before they even get into the classroom. Fifth is keeping kids safe, strengthening and investing in violence prevention strategies and even safe storage strategies to make sure folks know about the harms and the risks of firearms and their interactions with our youth. Six is creating a high impact tutoring program. We already know which kids are suffering and challenged the most. Why can't we provide more resources targeted towards them? And other cities have done that. We can do that. We have the resources, and some of the pilots that have moved forward have shown great promise, and we can expand that. Seventh is a citywide literacy milestone framework. We know that the reading proficiency and literacy is a big challenge. We need a framework and goals to help us get there and to monitor and hold our agencies accountable. Eighth is we got to make schools cool again. And I know this sounds silly, but one of the most inspiring things about school might not be the classroom, but it might be the climate and the activities and extracurriculars that exist. And we should be looking at that and actually getting ratings of how cool and what is the climate of these schools to see if we're actually keeping our young folks engaged and excited to get up in the morning and learn. Nine is strengthening the family school partnership standard. So how do we make sure that we're pushing our schools to have a stronger connection with parents, recognizing that parent involvement is one of the biggest indicators of whether a student is going to be successful or not. And we have to push our school systems to lean in, especially in schools that are underperforming in that area. And then 10, how do we not just focus on school property modernization, but how do we strengthen maintenance and upkeep? And then the last thing, I know this is a lot, is really working to prepare our young folks for the real world. And what I mean by that is we have to think about how we're strengthening trade options, how we're thinking about their achievement, but also how do we think about their technological readiness. And we really need to think about leaning in and pushing our school systems, our library systems to start teaching our young folks about AI and some of the big innovations that frankly are replacing the jobs that they're currently being prepared for today.
Okay, well, thank you for listing out succinctly your tenets of your platform. And so you've talked a little bit about this, but we know that children are a part of families. And if we're not supporting families, we're absolutely not supporting children. Tell us what about your platform or your priorities that will support children and their families? I think you went mute.
Great.
Yep.
Sorry
Okay,
about
start
that.
again. That's all right.
Look, for me personally, growing up, it took a village to get me through school. I was a busybody, class clown, was fighting all the time. And to go from that to Yale University, really, it took a village. And I think that's what we have to focus on and push our school systems and really our entire society to lean into. And that's where my family school partnership standard comes into play is how are we gauging, investing and supporting schools and strengthening their relationships with the parents. It shouldn't just be a matter of, hey, this school does it better because they care, but no, they should do it better because that's a part of their performance. And as I said earlier, the number one indicator for student achievement is how involved their parents are. And so we have to lean in and provide more resources for the school and family connection in communities where we're seeing lower performance outcomes. So I think that's a huge thing that we can focus on. Second is community schools. I spent a year and a half consulting with the Harlem Children's Zone that really is one of the leading examples of place-based education and cradle to career approaches and strategies. And we've seen how they've been able to transform some of the most challenged communities in Memphis and Harlem, and starting to do that in DC. And I think that's a strategy we have to lean into, especially east of the river, where we know that we have more challenges than what's happening in the classroom. So I think those two tenets of my education plan really focus on strengthening family involvement, family connecting to the school, and also pushing schools and education entities to have resources to expand in those areas.
Okay. So we have a couple of questions in the chat. So first, it says, we've heard that you are a victim of gun violence and want to give prayers to you and, for having that experience, because I'm sure it sticks with you for a lifetime. How will you provide resources, wraparound services centered around scholars who are victim of gun violence in middle school through high school? And how would you support nonprofits like the Trigger Project and the great Tia Bell and the work that she does? So let us know.
Yeah. Look, gun violence is still the leading cause of death for youth in America. It's been the leading cause of death for Black youth since 1996. And even though we've seen drastic drops across the country, our young folks are still disproportionately impacted. This picture behind me actually was with me and Vice President Harris when we went to Charlotte, North Carolina to talk specifically about youth violence. And we heard from young men and young girls who have been shot or suffered loss. And they helped us guide and develop that strategy where we invest in violence prevention and intervention programs like the Trigger Project, like Guns Down Friday, and even some of the organizations that focus on parents can help with youth too. Whether we're thinking about Narc Cure the Streets, or even some of the work from Far Southeast Family Strengthening Collaborative. And when I was in the White House, we pushed resources there, in total about $42 billion into these types of violence prevention programs. The Trigger Project benefited from that. I believe they got access to 2 federal grants, one through the University of Michigan and one directly. But that was a key part of our strategy from the federal level. Here in DC, frankly, we are investing money, but we haven't built out the infrastructure to help these organizations collaborate. We have not provided additional support around training and oversight. And frankly, we just don't have a champion in council that cares about this issue enough to prioritize it every single day. And that's something that I would definitely bring to this role. I know most of these folks for years. I know Tia's mom. Me and Tia, so I got shot in the leg. Tia's mom got shot in the other leg. I got shot in the right leg. She got shot in the left leg. So we have pictures together with Tia's mom. But these organizations are literally pouring their all into saving lives every day. And I think we should elevate and support them the same way we do our teachers and our first responders. And that just hasn't happened in the district. And cities that have done that well have seen transformation. Baltimore is a perfect example. They have leaned into their youth violence and intervention strategies and brought them into the fold and provide them with government benefits, resources, grants, but most importantly, support from the mayor down. And in DC, we don't have that yet, and I hope to be that champion.
Okay, thank you. And all I'm going to say about the University of Michigan is go blue, because that's my alma mater.
Oh, Lord.
And so with that, our last question is, Ward 7 has the highest illiteracy rate. And so how would you address that problem and support nonprofits who work with this demographic? And then, so how do you address adult literacy, especially for those who are the most, having the most literacy problems in our community, which ultimately impacts our youth. So tell us about your thinking around literacy and supporting nonprofits who work in that space.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I will say is I'm not doing this alone. Even though I live in Ward 8, I'm building out an advisory council of leaders across the district. In Ward 7, we're building it now. I'm really excited today. We confirmed Mrs. May Best to serve on there from East River Family Strengthening Collaborative, excuse me. And she gave me a good sit down. We had about a good 2 hour strategy session today on this. And so just so proud to have amazing people and smart folks like that in our corner that can help us think through different strategies and ideas and different beneficial ways to address these different issues. I think specifically to adult literacy, in my education strategy, I think there's really two areas that I hope will be helpful there. One is strengthening our community schools, recognizing that many of them work with the parents and the teachers and the students. But we know that you have to work with everyone across the board. When I served in the Office of Neighborhood Safety, I'll never forget, I was working with some of the young kids and I was really concerned with them. So I went to meet with their parents, and their parents were younger than me too. And I was like, wow, these are kids raising kids. And so we have to think about how do we think about multiple levels of folks to engage by strengthening our community schools. I also think that if we build up our efforts to address the root causes of violence, literacy is a major part of it. And frankly, economic opportunity is a really big part of it. And so I think we need to make sure that we're investing in those programs, whether it's community-based or violence prevention focused, that serve and address the root causes of violence in communities most impacted. And Ward 7 and Ward 8, unfortunately, we have so many of those. When I was in the Pathways program in Office of Neighborhood Safety, we were working with young men who have been impacted by violence, but we were also teaching them about how to get their GED, how to be ready for the workforce. And frankly, I think literacy is a part of that. So that's kind of the two areas of my package so far is frankly the advisory council that will help us identify opportunities to invest and protect budgets, strengthening our community schools approach, and then lastly, ensuring that our violence prevention funding and strategy is addressing the root causes of violence and not just intervening conflicts.
So thank you for coming to Ward 7 Council. But before we end our time with you, is there anything you want to say as we close to the Ward 7 community?
Yeah, look, I think, look, I know that this is an at-large seat and serves everybody. But Ward 7 and 8 are crucial to the success of this district. And I really aim to be that warrior and that fighter for our communities. And for a few reasons. One, some of the major challenges that we're seeing across the district are most intensely impacting us east of the river. Two, when we think about gentrification, we are, if not already, the next zone that will be heavily impacted. But when we think about education, the highest concentration of public school students are in Ward 7 and 8. And so even our school strategy needs to be focused on Ward 7 and 8. And so I'm just hoping that, I may not have all the ideas and the solutions yet, but I'm excited to be one of the first at-large members east of the river in over a decade. And I think a part of that means that you'll have someone that you can stand with that will fight for this, not just as your council member, but as your neighbor and someone right down the street that you can come and talk to. And I don't think there's a more compelling argument than that, that we need more folks who are in our communities, reflect our communities, leading the future of this district. Lastly, I would say, look, I could use everybody's help and support. So I hope you'll come to go to our website, www.jacksonfordc.com. You can follow me on social media. We have t-shirts, we have yard signs, we're knocking doors, we're hosting house parties, house meetings. We could use your help with all of that. And the heart of our volunteer force already is Ward 7 and 8. I would say 60% of our volunteers are east of the river. So we are building this thing east to west, and we'd love to have you all support and involvement as part of our campaign.
Okay, well, thank you, Gregory Jackson, for coming to the Ward 7 Education Council. Have a good evening.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Okay. And so, everyone, that concludes our 26 for 26. This month, we'll have additional 26 for 26 Next month, I think we will have Donnie Crawford and Oye. And I will promise by the time Mr. Oye comes that I will say his name absolutely correctly. I am not going to butcher it tonight. With that, I want to bring forward our State Board of Education Rep Ward 7, Eboni-Rose Thompson, to provide us with updates and information. It's you, I
All
saw
right.
you, so I know you're here. Hold on, let me.
I'm present, but I'm off camera, so
Oh,
you
you
don't have to
off camera.
spotlight.
Okay, so I don't have
You
to,
can
wait
you
a
can
minute,
just go
but
back to the slide because I'm off camera today. Uh,
okay. Hold on. Let me get you back to the slide. There you go.
good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be with you. As Marla shared, my name is Eboni-Rose Thompson, and I do represent Ward 7 on the State Board of Education. A couple things I want to flag that will be different in April. So one, our typical public meeting, two things about that. First, it will be April 22nd, not April 15th, due to spring break. It will be at the same time and location, though. So that is 441 4th Street Northwest at the Marionberry building, and it will start at 5 p.m. We will be having a panel on the high school graduation requirements. We are getting to the finish line on this. And I really encourage the public to come testify. I expect somewhere around the beginning of April, we should be sharing what we've heard so far. If you are like, hey, there's this thing I really want to weigh in on, I'm happy to come to school groups, PTAs, anything to make sure we get the word out about what is recommended. I do anticipate we will get a lot of testimony specifically around changes to the special ed component, some testimony, hopefully, about CTE and the idea of endorsements because that's programming that we really do need to expand. And then probably some comments about course requirements. When I say course requirements, there's been some debate around how many credits of math and science and specifically around equity and access, and if we require algebra 2, because that is like the gateway math to STEM careers. So would love if folks chime in. Now, here's the second part. We do not currently have hybrid testimony. Why? Because DGS does not want us to be great. I don't think they will put it that way, but you know what I'm saying. So we do not currently have hybrid testimony. We only have in-person testimony, or you can still submit written testimony. I will make sure to put my email in the chat and the link if you would like to sign up for our April meeting. The second thing that I want to flag for folks at the April meeting, I will be bringing a resolution before the board at our working session, which I anticipate will be on the agenda at our April meeting if all goes well, specifically around supporting legislation in DC that is called Eric's Law. Eric's Law is about making sure all people, but specifically it was brought to us by a young person who has disabilities. And given the interactions with law enforcement, making sure those with invisible disabilities, like autism, for example, there's a little symbol in Maryland. It's actually a butterfly that they put on their ID to make sure that if, they have behaviors that the police might not consider quote unquote normal, they aren't jeopardized for that. I am putting forth the resolution in hopes that the board will vote for this so that we can help advance this legislation in DC, especially at a time where, to some of the candidates' points earlier, we are experiencing an overwhelming amount of federal presence in law enforcement. And I know that folks are talking about the presence in other parts of the city, but we are not exempt over here. And we do very much have the bulk of the kids. So I'll also be going to ANC meetings asking for them to do letters of support. Right now, Councilmember Lewis George and Councilmember Parker have co-introduced this bill. And it is something that I believe we should get done to make sure we are proactively keeping our young people, but all of our residents safe. Last thing I'll say about the board is we are hiring a summer fellow. If you know folks who might be interested, I will put the link to that in the chat. We do have some town halls coming up. They will be split into 1 through 5, wards 1 through 5, and then 6 through 8. We do not have a date for the 6 through 8 one. Once they have that, I will share it publicly. And then our Office of the Student Advocate has a Student Fest coming up. Student Fest will be on April 13th. It is from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at MLK Library. It is a free event for high school age students. They will receive community service hours. They will also be fed, and it is during spring break. And so if you have a young person who is a high school student, in DCPS or in charters who are open that day, that are closed that day because it is spring break, highly recommend you consider them stopping in Student Fest. So I have put links in the chat, including my email. I hope this was helpful. I know there was a lot of, you all heard from 3 candidates tonight, so it was a robust meeting. So I'm doing my best to both be quick, concise, and informative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those updates. Those are all good ones. I want to let you know that addition to us having 26 for 26 next month, the Deputy Mayor of Education will also be coming to talk about the budget as it relates to education in the district. So that's a very important, they're calling it the Budget Roadshow. And so they're coming to the Ward 7 Education Council to talk about the education budget and what that will look like in the district for fiscal year 27. 27? Yeah, 27, I believe. Yep. And so please make sure you set your calendar for that. And we'll also hear from 2 candidates, one independent, one for the Democratic seat for at large. With that being said, we always welcome sign up for budget and finance programs, communication outreach, legislative and membership, committee sign up. Ward 7 Education Council was the first education council in the city. They set the mandate and the example of this as an entity of really pushing for equity in particular communities. And so we really encourage people to sign up and be a part of those efforts. If there are announcements that we want to take from anyone who's attending tonight, I'll open it up to hear if there's any announcements this evening. Going once, going twice, going third. I'll make one to close us out. Many of you know that I do work with the Greater Washington Community Foundation, the Health Equity Fund. Had the great honor of funding a lot of the organizations we've talked about tonight and the work they're doing, from Trigger to East River to Washington Literacy Center. So we are hosting our 2026 Health Equity and Economic Justice Summit on April 30th at Sycamore and Oak. I will put a link in not in the chat because I can't handle all of these things at once, but in the newsletter for you to sign up. It is at no cost. We're going to be talking about AI and the impact of that, abundance versus scarcity. We're going to be talking about the state of health, health equity in the district, and then we're going to have a session called Barbershop Economics, where we're going to talk about economic justice, community wealth building, and those type of topics. We're going to have so much good entertainment. It is going to be not only about learning, but it's going to be about joy and having a good time. So please show up, show out, be there. It's going to be a phenomenal event. And with that, I am going to close us out for the good of the order, reminding you all the ways to stay in touch with us. So please go to our YouTube, look at our newsletter, make sure you're following us on all the socials. And thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.